vermelha no ar, juventude combatente. Em 2011 na Unir se iniciou uma grande greve que derrubaria o reitor. Duvidaram da resistência dos estudantes.
It is right to rebel. This is the principle that was embodied by the June Days, or Jornadas de Junho, a series of violent anti-government protests that shook the foundations of Brazil in 2013. In the retelling of this historic uprising, the monopoly press often point to the mass movement for free public transportation, which started earlier that year as the cause of the June Days, but its origins can be traced back to the class struggle happening throughout the country and around the world. The June Days in Brazil erupted in the midst of a global storm of rebellion. In the years leading up to June 2013, the people of North Africa and the Middle East had come together in the streets to call for the overthrow of their oppressive governments. In Turkey, these protests proved to be some of the most combative and heroic, and the people's fight for new democracy against the fascist Turkish state and its backer, US imperialism, inspired everyone who was oppressed and exploited. Within Brazil itself, many different battles between the people and the ruling class converged in June of 2013. In 2010, the Olympics chose Brazil as its host in 2016. The Brazilian government initiated construction of stadiums in many of Brazil's cities to prepare for hosting the Olympics and also the FIFA World Cup. Police enforced mass evictions and terrorized neighborhoods to clear the way for these projects. Construction workers went on strike, and people resisted as the state assaulted their homes in pursuit of profit. In 2011, thousands of workers at several hydroelectric plants rose up against cruel working conditions, setting fire to warehouses, and the state had to dispatch national troops to put them down. In 2012, peasants struggled for land against the latifundio, or big landlords, in battles across the country. During this time, Carmad Renato, a founder of the Revolutionary Student Organization, MEPR, and a leader in the League of Poor Peasants, was assassinated by gunmen at the behest of the landlords and the old state. In his honor, the Revolutionary Front for the Defense of the Rights of the People declared April 9th the Day of Heroes of the Brazilian people. It is in this context of international and national class struggle that the Brazilian movement for free public transportation fares started to see larger turnouts in the early months of 2013. In one of the most confrontational examples, the students in Goiânia clashed with police, set buses on fire, and eventually won their demands for free public transport. This provoked a crackdown by the Brazilian state, which outraged people more, and the numbers in the streets swelled from hundreds to tens of thousands. The struggle against high transportation fares transformed into a general rebellion against the government and the rotting society founded on bureaucratic capitalism. On June 17th, the protests took on a national character as they were seen in hundreds of Brazilian cities in response to the recent police repression. In the capital, Brasilia, protesters crowded on the roof of the National Congress building. In Rio de Janeiro, in one of the most illustrative examples of the strength of the masses, protesters beat back a small group of police defending the city's Legislative Assembly building.
Ameaça vermelha no ar. RAP combativo de novo pra te falar que guerra popular é o que o povo necessita. Tomar de volta o poder das mãos dos parasitas. A chama avermelhada ainda paira na cidade. Do campo nas favelas, das quebradas submersas. De sangue latino-americano, índio, negro, pardo. Cadê meus manos? Ameaça.
More than anything, these protests represented a break from the phony progressive facade of the Social Democratic Workers' Party over the past decade. First under President Lula da Silva, and then Dilma, the Partido dos Trabalhadores, as it is known in Brazil, had given itself undeserved accolades for a false prosperity that it accomplished through its petty reforms. The June Days of 2013 shattered that illusion and exposed the Workers' Party as acting on behalf of the same interests of the landlords and the capitalists, as well as serving imperialism, mainly US imperialism. However, it would not be entirely accurate to say that the June Days in Brazil were specifically against the Workers' Party. The meaning of this uprising was more profound. During this time, the masses expressed resentment and class hatred for Brazilian society as a whole. Even though the protesters were not united under one flag, the movement was still deeply political. It was a rebellion against the bureaucratic capitalist system, where the competing camps of the bourgeoisie reinforced semi-colonial conditions to appease their imperialist masters. Today, the Workers' Party and others on the phony left reveal their resentment towards the masses by pointing to the June days as opening the door for the rise of Bolsonaro and the far right. In reality, crooks like Lula and Dilma overlooked their own role in passing new laws that gave the military police license to go all out against the protest and lead to more brutal arrests. The fact is that it is the social democrats and their spineless, compromising politics who have given the far right more room to grow. At the same time, the limits of the June days must be acknowledged. The central question raised by these events is how to solve the problems of the revolutionary vanguard and the worker-peasant alliance so that mass uprisings like this may be prolonged and intensified against the old state as part of a people's war for new democracy. Comrade Igor Mendez, one of many activists who were arrested for their participation in the June days, wrote in 2018 that the consequences of the 2013 uprising have not yet been fully realized. June 2013 has not yet left the Brazilian political agenda, he writes. It would be better to say that the entire Brazilian political agenda has not yet come out of June 2013.
Esse convite pra ciência da história.
O que é escória contra o povo tem que jogar fora. Desde 1500 o Brasil é dominado. Na falsa independência acreditou o conformado. E segue o povo escravizado sem saber quem é o tirano.
O Estado é submisso ao Império Norte-Americano.